All right, here we are. I'm recording. We are live. So yeah, again, I'm going to teach you one way to how to use Illustrator and get started. But there's a lot of different ways to use this. I'm going to share my screen, y'all. And here we go. This is what it looks like. I'm actually going to exit this so you can see what InDesign is going to look like upon first opening it up. All right, let's do this. Okay, so I've opened InDesign and this is my startup screen. Usually if it's the first time, you'll have like a little tutorial thing that's gonna come up. But this is where I'm gonna be. Now I am going, I guess like to preface like what we're gonna be doing today and like ideally before Tuesday is we're trying to get some spreads. A spread is a set of 2 pages. For example, if you see like here in this yearbook that I'm sharing, these are like 2 pages that are designed together and they have similar content and they're meant to flow from one into the other. And we're still in the stages of trying to come up with a theme for this yearbook. So we also got to figure out how we can come up with a theme and how we can show that on InDesign. So the first thing you're going to do is create a new document on InDesign. And you'll get this little tab here. And I'm just going to go default. I'm not going to do anything fancy with it because right now we're just in the process of getting our ideas onto the page. This default is like a computer sheet of 8.5 by 11, but you'll see that the measurements are a little different. It's 51p, 66p. Those are called picas. That's a term that people using InDesign in layout and typography use. It's 1/6 of an inch. It's a little weird, but it makes sense for typographers. And I'm going to do that. And I'm just going to say this is my Carl's yearbook idea. All right, and I'm going to create that. And then I get taken here. So here I am. And what I'm actually going to do first is save it. Because one habit that I want to get into, and I want all of you to get into, is that when you are saving the document that you're working with, it should go in a folder that it belongs in. So I'm putting it in this desktop yearbook folder and I'm placing it here. And that's where it's gonna go. That's the first thing I'm gonna do to get it set up so I know where it is. Now the reason why we do that is because once you're in the folder and you have your InDesign file here, you can know it's InDesign because it has a .indd. There's this other folder that I want us to get in the habit of doing, and I call it assets. And an asset is anything that you want to use within your design. It can be a drawing that you've created. It can be a photo that you've taken from the internet. In our yearbooks, it could be the mugshots. It could be the pictures of clubs. And here I've collected a folder of photos. And these are all of my wonderful cat named Frankie, because I'm really passionate about my cats. And I think that this cat should be the theme of the 2021 yearbook. So I'm gonna do this. This is gonna be my theme. And I'm gonna prove to y'all that Frankie needs to be the theme of this year's yearbook. So yeah, this is in my assets folder. And these are all of the pictures that I'm gonna use to communicate how great she is and how great of a theme that is. And look at the bottom here, I have my little text document. This is our party. We just did startup. I just went over folders and saving. We're a quarter of the way done of what I wanted to share today. Let me think. I guess if we were all using it, I would kind of stop and get us here. Is it okay if I just go through all of it and then you kind of have this to look at later?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I'm just gonna go through it so you get a sense of how this all works. So here we are. I saved my InDesign file, and now I am in InDesign. Now, when you first open up InDesign, I'm just going to bring it here. When you first open up InDesign, this is kind of the main setup. It defaults to this view called Essentials. Now, in InDesign, you have your pages that you're looking at, and these are in the white. You have all this negative space around it. That's your board of ideas and other things that you can test out. And on the left, you have your toolbar of all these different tools. We'll go through a couple of them, nothing too crazy. And on the right are our windows that give us different things that we can modify. But when you first open it, it's pretty bare bones. You get this properties tab, which tells you like the heights and the width of our pages. You have the pages tab, which is really useful. And then you have this, which will become more useful the more you use it, but right now it's kind of useless. The first thing I would do is actually just switch our view from essentials to typography. Because we're working in a yearbook, because we're using a lot of text and we have a lot of assets, those pictures and things that I'm talking about, this is going to give us a really good base set of tools that we're going to need for our yearbook. The main ones we're going to be looking at today are character, which shows the different fonts that we're going to be using. We'll be playing with layers here. We'll be playing with pages, and we'll touch a little bit about stroke, but nothing too major. So yeah, character, pages, layers, those are our main ones that we're going to look at. So this is kind of how I think we should all have our InDesign pages laid out. I think this will be a good base, home base for everyone. You can add things to it, but this is where we're going to be. Okay, so now we are here at text. Let me get that to go away. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go to pages right now. And so you'll see that right now I have one page and it's this one right here. And I mentioned that we're gonna be focusing on making a spread that's like a 2 pages back to back when you open it up. So if you go down to this little button, it's a plus sign within a square. It says create new page. You can create new pages, and then here, I'm gonna just be focused on these two to communicate my yearbook idea of Frankie. All right, and you'll notice here you get a view of all of the small thumbnails for your pages. There's page 1, there's page 2, and there's page 3. We're gonna keep it simple. We're just gonna work from these. We're not gonna worry about these master pages right now. And so,
Mr. Roscoe, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Liliana's in the waiting room.
Oh, and I'm the host now. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Hey, Liliana. I'm on the pages right now, and we're in our workspaces. And yeah, so you'll notice once you add pages, this document grows. So you can scroll down. And if I added more pages, you would see this document get bigger and bigger. But right now, I just want to get to this and focus on that. So there we go, that's that. And now I'm gonna start thinking about text. And Liliana, since you just joined, I'm going through this all kind of fast just to give you an overview of how this works. And then it's recording. I'll put it on YouTube, and then you all can reference this later. So probably one of the tools that we're going to be using the most is this text tool. It's type. And the keyboard shortcut for that is T. And whenever we're working with type, I think it's a good idea to get in the habit of drawing a little box to determine how much space you want this title or header or caption to take up. And so when you draw that, you get this blue square around here, and inside of that you have that little blinking cursor. That's my text cursor. And Liliana, you missed it, but I'm really passionate about my cat Frankie, so I want my cat to be the theme of this year's yearbook. So once you start typing in this box, now you can grab that, and now you can start manipulating the size as well as what font it's going to be by going into your character tab. So it defaults to Minion, but there's many, many more interesting fonts that we can work with. It's going to give you a list of all the fonts that you have. If you have a Mac, it comes with a decent set, but you can also, now that you all have cloud subscriptions from the school, you can go up here to this Find More tab, and now you can look at all the fonts that Adobe has access to that will allow you to use for free. It goes a little slow because it has to kind of connect to the server of Adobe and find the font you're looking for. But from the ones that we can see, is there any font that you all feel very passionate about that suits my lovely cat, who is shy and small and fluffy? Anyone got an idea here? The title is on the left, FYI.
Wait,
No, I
what's
have to
that
say,
one?
I have to go with AS script, man.
Anyone else had a thought on a font? You're looking for AS script, is that right? Do we see it here?
Yeah, I saw it, but I don't know. I don't see it anymore.
Not seeing
Or
it.
no. Oh wait, I saw one. I lost it.
Anyone else feel passionate about one of these fonts that we're looking at?
Mm,
I feel like coaching is cute, like cat-like.
Coaching?
Yeah, coaching.
Is it in the Adobe set?
No, it's in the regular.
Oh, it's in the regular set. Let's just choose one of these because I want to show you what it looks like to download it for you. How do y'all feel about Beastly?
sure.
All right, let's do Beastly. So I'm gonna click on this cloud here to the right. So it's gonna activate those 9 fonts of Beastly. And now once they're activated, you can go here in your fonts that are on your system, and you should be able to find it. Sometimes it takes a while to load up. I think it's being slow. Let's go back to Cochin. Well, that's how you would do it, and my Wi-Fi is not connecting. Let's do this. Okay, so there we go. And now we can play around with the size of this. One thing you'll notice that if you go too big on the font, it's gonna cut off the word. And so this box is there so you can rearrange it. You can resize that to fit the size of your text that's in there. And if it's too small for it, you'll get this little red cross in a white square. That's telling you that there's more text in this box that can be seen. And so I can go like that. Okay, so that's the title of this spread that I wanna make the theme of my yearbook. And some other things that you can do with this type tool. I can imagine that maybe at the beginning of this spread, I'm gonna have a little blurb, like a 2-paragraph blurb about why Frankie's the best. But I don't wanna write that right now because that's gonna take me too long and I don't feel like thinking about that. So what you can do is once you make your text box, you can right click and you can say fill with placeholder text. And what it's gonna do is it's gonna generate this random gobbledygook of Latin. And you can use that, and that's gonna fill in this space. So you just have a sense of what text is gonna look like in paragraph form here. So yeah, I like doing that too, and you can kind of play around with that and add some things with the text tool. And again, I'm getting this red square with a cross that's telling me that I have more text than is shown. That should be okay. All right, cool. So here we go. That's about a little bit about text. You can play around and like experiment with types of text you want to see. I want to see if Beastly downloaded for me. Yes, Beastly's back. So I'm gonna make this Beastly. That's nice. You know, Frankie's a Western cat now, a Southwestern cat. So I think this is a good way to communicate that change in her life. And then I'm gonna make this Cochin. I forgot who recommended that, but let's make that Cochin because I think that'll be nice. Okay, cool. So there we go. And one thing that is handy to look at and have is the ability to change your view option. Let's see if we can get here. So yeah, in the left here, you have this normal view, and this is showing you what the pages look like and it's going to show you what's on the outside of your board here. And it has all these lines that normally would not be printed. These are for margins. These are for the text boxes. If you hit this and go to preview, now you can see what it looks like without all of those lines distracting you. And a quick way you could toggle that is by using W. And so you can kind of see this is what it looks like with all the lines that are guiding me. This is what it looks like when you're about to print it. And another thing that you can do with that is that, let's say I was trying multiple fonts out. Let's say, like, for some reason I thought that this Andale Mono was a good idea too. You can have that on the side, and then when you toggle the view, it doesn't show up in the preview. It won't show up when you print it, but it's there in case you ever wanted to switch it out and be like, oh, I like that better. Nah, just kidding. I like this one more. So that's a little bit about text. This is step 4. Who's got a question about anything so far? All good?
I have a question.
Go for it.
Okay, so say that I want to make the text italic or bolded. What do I do?
Ooh, wonderful. Yeah, let's say that this part was a proper noun. This is like a name of this new movie that came out that Frankie and I watched. Fugitar Sectum Hillabo. And for movies, what do? Do we italicize them? We italicize them. So you can go here, you can go to your character tab, and then underneath the name of the font is the style, and you can change it to be regular, italic, bold, bold italic, etc., etc. And so that's how you can play around with that stuff. That's a great.
I think it's also important to note that some fonts that you will download online, I think, like, I would say most of them have the ability to be italicized or bolded, but there's no keyboard shortcut to do that in InDesign. You must do it through the drop-down menu. So you can't do, like on a normal word processor, Control B or Control I or Command I. You must use the drop-down menu.
All right.
Isabel said that she got kicked out of the meeting and she's in the waiting room.
Hey, all right, she's here. Thanks, y'all. You can interrupt me whenever someone's like locked out. I'm trying to get in. Okay, so that's text. Let's get on to shapes, because this will be fun. Okay. So our yearbook would be pretty boring if it was just a bunch of text. And there's a couple ways we can add some shapes that are gonna give some life to it. There's these basic polygons that we're looking at. We've got this rectangle that I can use, and I can block out space like so. I've got this ellipse that you can use. One thing, one shortcut that you can hold on to is Shift. If you hold on to Shift while drawing any shape, it's gonna make it a perfect circle or a perfect square or anything like that. And you can also make a polygon. The default polygon is a hexagon. But if you click somewhere, you can change the amount of sides, so I can make my triangles, and you can change the width and height, things like that. So yeah, you can make some shapes, and you can also color them and change their stroke. So if you've used Microsoft Paint before, or any other like basic, what's it called, digital photo editing software, you'll be familiar with this, but in InDesign and Illustrator, it works a little bit differently. On the left, you have these two squares. One is called fill, and one is called stroke. And in InDesign, the default shapes you make have something that's called no fill. That means it's transparent. You can see directly through it. If I put two things on top of each other, you would see both of them. And they have a black stroke. And that means that this shape has a black outline, as if you drew over in black. And you can change both of those things. So if I wanted to change the fill of my square, I can double click the fill and play around with colors and select it. I think she likes orange. Frankie likes orange, yeah? Her collar's orange. We've assigned the color orange for her. So you can give her that. You can play around with this as well by changing the color of the stroke. And right now I can't really see that stroke, but if I wanted to, I can also click on my shape, go here to stroke, and you can bump up the size of that if you wanted to. But I'm looking at that now and I'm like, I actually don't really like it. I think I prefer that it was just an orange square with nothing around it. You can now select that stroke. You'll know it's selected if it's on top of the other square. And then go here, hover, and you can say apply none. That's gonna get rid of the color, like so. So you can do that. And one thing that you should also be aware of with InDesign and Illustrator is that there's two types of cursors. There's this cursor on top called V, I call it the general selection. And then there's this other one beneath it called direct selection. And then you can toggle that with A as an apple. The default one, V, is gonna select, how do I describe this? It's gonna select whole shapes and groups of things. So like if I had these two things together in a group and I dragged it with this tool, it would drag the whole thing with me. But this one, this direct selection, you can actually select not just the whole shape, but you can select points in a shape. You can select the line path, and you can have some fun with making these shapes more interesting. Okay, and I'm just gonna give this another fill too, so you can kind of see how that looks. Here we go, there's my shapes. And again, if I hit W or go to this window here, you can see that they all get cut out. And, oh, there she is, okay. And they're, sorry, Frankie's like catching a fly. And then all those excess parts of the shapes, like here, everything that's on this part gets cut out. And that's what it would look like when you print it. Okay, that's a little bit about fill and stroke and shape. One thing that I forgot to mention and forgot to put here is photos. So I mentioned that in my Finder, I have my InDesign file here. I have my folder of assets with all these beautiful pictures of her there. And I want to place one of them. So I can go to File, Place, Assets, and I'm going to choose, let's do this one. All right, so I'm going to choose this photo of Frankie to place on my spread. And once you get that, you have the option of clicking and dragging where and how big you want it to appear. There it is. There she is. And maybe I'll play around with that and put that over there. And I'll put another one too, so we can kind of get some variety.
I'd also like to say that the shortcut for it is Command D for place tool.
Right on. Command D as in dog. Let's do this one. All right. So you open that, place that there. And there you go. So you've got some other stuff to play with. And the more things you have on your board, the more they're going to start to overlap. I'm going to place one more just so we can get some more overlapping. And things might get a little cluttered. So what you might need to do is go to this Layers tab, which is here. If you click on this caret, then you'll see all of the things that you've created in this spread. You can select them or highlight them, sorry, by clicking this square on the right. And then you can also drag them up and down. So you see before that it was on top of these two, but then when I brought them down, they go down a layer like that. All right, and that's a little bit about layers. And then the last introductory thing, I know this is a lot that I'm going through, I wouldn't normally go through it this fast, is something that I think will make your designs more interesting, and that's called clipping masks. So what you can do if you have both a shape and a photo is you can make it so that this photo will fit inside this shape, and you'll have this nice circle around the photo, and it's gonna cut off like the rest of this information. So the first thing I would like to do is just make sure that this photo is big enough, like that. One thing that I just did, I'm gonna say this because you might run into this issue, when you're resizing photos and you want to make the whole photo bigger, you're gonna have to do Command Shift. Sorry, that didn't work. Command Shift to increase everything. Otherwise, it's just gonna increase the photo within this frame, and we'll get to that later. So yeah, what I can do is I can take this, I can cut it or copy it. Select this shape and then say paste into. And so it cuts out all that other information around it, and it puts Frankie inside the circle. And now we can start actually having some fun with some of these shapes. So our yearbooks aren't just a bunch of squares and grids. I've heard many of you explain about how, what's it called, tiring all these squares and grids are. If you feel like giving yourself a little challenge, you can play around with this pen tool. And you don't even have to do anything fancy with curves just yet. You can kind of just click points around a photo that you like to try to get an interesting shape around it. And you can do the same thing where you cut it and then paste it into it. And now we are cooking. That looks way more fun. Okay, so that's like a really brief overview of these 9 things that you can get started with InDesign to play around and make some cool spreads and ideas for the yearbook. Anyone have any questions about all this stuff that I shared in this lightning round session of Adobe InDesign?
Oh, I have a quick question.
Yeah, Liliana, that's you, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you like have a picture or something and you kind of want to match the shapes and like the other stuff that you have in your spread to the picture, is there a way to like take the colors in a separate picture and put that into the shape? Does that make sense? Or like
so like I want, like for example, this triangle, I want it to be the color of this chair.
yeah.
Yeah, there's an easy way to do that, and that's if you so you select the shape that you're trying to recolor, and then you can go to this eyedropper tool, not the color theme tool, that's going to be something different. But if you go here to this eyedropper, and then you hover over the color that you want Okay, so actually I did something wrong here where I had my fill selected. So remember the square that's on top is what is selected. I gotta make sure that my fill is on top. And so now if I do that, now I get that color of that green chair.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah. But just make sure you're doing the eyedropper and not the color theme tool, because you'll get something else going on there. Any other things that people like anticipate wanting to like try out on some of the things that they make?
Hmm. I do not know.
That's fine. I mean, I threw a bunch of stuff at you.
Whoa, you drink this stuff. It's so good.
Cool. Should I stop recording? What do y'all think?
Sure. Yeah, I think this is a good like basis to be able to go off and do some spreads for the weekend.
Cool. Oh, so one last thing actually that could be helpful for you all is you can also take text. So like, let's say I wanted to take this text and I wanted to put it in a shape. You can do the same thing, paste into. It will retain the same color as before, but I could also change that. And so now my text is starting to fit in a different shape. Although actually, if I were to redo that to get it to fit better, I would actually highlight the text like that. Oh, this is not working. Jesse.
How would you do this?
Mhm.
The way I would do it is I would take, copy the text and make sure it's in your clipboard, right?
Here we go.
And double select, then put copy into, and then go into direct selection, select the image, or actually go into text tool. It'd be better. Click the shape itself. It'll make into a text box, then paste it in.
Beautiful. And so yeah, that's how you can get some more interesting text shapes for your text. What do you think? Should the yearbook be Frankie themed? Have I made
Yes.
my case?
That looks
think it should
really
be Frank
cool.
themed.
I definitely
should be
think that we
Frank
should include that in. We should definitely, yeah.
All right, it's settled. I'm glad we finally decided on a theme.
Finally.
All right, and then
Yeah, guys, we did it. That was it. Like,
Yay.
we're done. All right, I'm gonna stop recording. I'm gonna stop sharing.